Hi everyone, this is Heather Lottinen from the Flourish.Academy. I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Mara Chick. Hey Mara.
Hi.
What are we working on today?
Okay, I think we're going to try to wrap up our discussion today on You Are a Bleep by Jen Sincero. We are going to jump right into part 4, which is how to get over your BS already. Heather is going to pick us up from chapter 17, page 141.
She says, start paying attention. What are your favorite self-sabotaging stories? What do you hear yourself think and say over and over again that has become who you are, or rather, who you think you are? Bust yourself in your own tired, old, broken records right now, so you can set about rewriting your stories and create the kind of life that you love. So everyone has a story that they tell themselves, and for a lot of people, it's negative or self-sabotaging. You just have to catch it, because if you catch it, then you can change it. You can, correct your course and think something different. So I want you to start paying attention to anything that you say to yourself that's negative. And then
do you think you would tell yourself a story?
No, I'm actually pretty good about this. It's really rare that I catch myself telling myself a story. Every once in a while, but if I do, you need to call me on it because I'm not recognizing it. You know what I mean? It's sometimes hard to see.
It is.
What you're saying. But my internal chatter and self-talk is pretty good. I'm usually telling myself how awesome I am. Usually. Like I don't tell myself that I'm a loser, stupid. Like I find that stupid. So I don't do things like that. Sometimes I think I'm not smart enough for certain tasks and maybe I need to catch. I don't know. Do you do this?
No, I don't really think I do.
No.
Maybe I used to, but now I think I've read enough books and I've lived enough to know that there is no benefit in telling myself a story about who I am and how stupid I am and how I'm not enough and I'm insignificant. Like none of that is important, and it's not going to get me where I want to be. And if you haven't figured that out by now.
Right. It's unproductive.
Yes. Okay, we're going to jump to chapter 18 on page 151. And Jen says, most of the time, it's not lack of experience that's holding us back, but rather the lack of determination to do what we need to do to be successful. We put so much energy into coming up with excuses why we can't be, do, or have the things we want, and designing the perfect distractions to keep us from our dreams. Imagine how far we'd get if we just shut up and used all that energy to go for it instead.
Just shut up.
Just shut up.
And do it. She says procrastination is one of the most popular forms of self-sabotage because it's really easy. It's really easy to find something else to do and keep yourself busy so that you don't have to face the big important stuff. And she says if you're serious about changing your life, you'll find a way. And if not, you'll find an excuse.
It's really easy to sit there and binge watch Netflix.
Is it?
Yeah. Sometimes it feels good. Heather, come to the dark side.
I know people do this. I've heard of this binge watching you speak of.
You've never binge watched anything?
Oh, yes, I have, for sure. But it's been years.
No, but it's probably like motivational, like Jocko Willink videos on YouTube and stupid podcasts.
That's what I binge watch now. But the last time I binge watched something that was not edifying to my brain was probably The Office. On Netflix, which is hilarious.
Yeah, that's my favorite show.
But I would watch it while I was editing, and it's funny. It's the funniest show ever made. So hilarious.
Heather, I need to teach you some ways. Okay.
But no, in terms of now, listen. If I could very easily slip into that because I love things like Dateline 2020 murder mysteries. I love stuff like like strategy or like what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, these things that people get involved with that are so bizarre. I love, but I don't, because I know if I got sucked into it, then I would watch it. And so I just don't even.
You can't discipline yourself then.
What was that show that was super
Making a Murder?
That's it.
Yeah, because part 2 just came out.
Thank you. And I started to watch it, and I was like, I will literally watch this entire thing because I have to know what happens. So I stopped. I just didn't.
You could Google and figure out what's happening.
Or how about when we're done recording, you just tell me what happened.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Good. Okay, back to the book on page 158. Here's some excuses people use. I love this. She says, I don't have time to clean my office. Oh, look at that. I just spent half an hour that I don't have looking for my phone that was buried beneath a pile of crap. Oh, look at that. My phone is dead, which means I'm about to waste even more time I don't have looking for the darn charger, which might be under this pile of books I placed over here. So you'll see that, you say you don't have time to clean your office, but you actually waste a lot of time looking for things that are lost. And it's funny what happens when you have to do something. So if you were to ask me last week, if I had an extra 10 hours to work on a project for you, I would have said, absolutely not. Mara, don't you know that
You'll say that's $10,000.
And I'm so scheduled and I'm so regimented and I have everything lined up and I'm so busy. No, I do not have an extra 10 hours to work on your project. But we had an incident in our home with a flea infestation. So my parents have 2 dogs. We have 3 cats. Somehow they all wear collars. I don't know how. Somehow someone got fleas, spread them to everyone else, and then the carpets in the house. I spent several $100s and about 10 hours last week getting rid of these fleas. So some people will say, well, I don't have the money to do that. But if you had to, you would do it because you have to get rid of the fleas. Or I don't have time. But if something, happened and your basement flooded, all of a sudden you'd have 20 extra hours to go deal with it because you had to. So that's the operative word here. If it's something you have to do, you'll find the time to do it or you'll find an excuse. I personally could not live with the fleas in the house because they were eating me alive. So the fleas had to go, which meant I'm running around to various stores buying different sprays and I'm vacuuming and I'm doing all of these things and because I had to. So you make time for what you want to do. So this excuse that you don't have time, we don't want to hear it.
Ain't that the truth? Okay, on page 161, she says, stop talking about how busy you are. Focus on what you enjoy about what you do and the spaces in between the doing instead of feeling weighed down by it all. Decide that you live an awesome, relaxed life full of interesting projects that you love doing and communicate that to the world and yourself. And then go out and merrily do it. I think this is a problem with a lot of entrepreneurs. Like when you ask people, oh, how are you doing? It's like, oh, I'm busy.
Instant.
Okay, well, I don't want to be busy. Like if I'm busy, it means I'm doing something wrong. There's not enough margin built in my schedule. I'm overbooking myself. I'm working on too much. I don't want my answer to be busy. I want it to be, I'm thriving. Thank you.
I have all the time I need.
Yeah.
I'm awesome.
I can take on anything. Like when you came to me about this podcast.
For instance.
Like I needed another thing to do.
I know. And I said, listen, you have to hear me out on this. I have an idea.
It'll be worth it.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. And then on page 165, she says, making time to do the things that inspire you should be a priority because what's the point of living life without them? True. I mean, what is the point?
It's pointless and it's actually very depressing. That's what leads to depression and anxiety is not having a purpose or a point. You just feel like, I think it was Tony Robbins that said, activity without purpose is the drain on your life. And that's so true. So what's the point? Then she jumps into chapter 20, which is fear is for suckers. Now, we only have a few things we want to say about this. And why is that, Mara?
Oh, because we just did a whole series on Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers, which is my favorite book. And if you really want to dig into fear, you need to listen to those episodes. So we'll just touch on a couple things here.
She has this quote, and it says unknown, author unknown. We tiptoe through life, hoping to safely make it to death. And I remember a quote from Jim Rohn, who I love. He says, life is risky. You know how I know that? No one makes it out alive. So does your fear really mean anything? I mean, you're not going to die right this minute. Ultimately, you are going to die. So there's nothing that you're going to do to change that. So what do you really fear? She says it's so simple. Fear will always be there, poised and ready to wreak havoc, but we can choose whether we're going to engage with it or turn on the lights, drown it out, and crawl past it. I also realize that drowning it out is actually pretty easy. We've just been conditioned to believe otherwise. And that's because we've made being in fear a habit.
Ooh, powerful.
Which means people just say it because it's common and it's a habit. And it's like saying, I don't have time. I don't have time and I can't do that because I'm afraid. You have to change your view of these things or you'll never make a change.
And then she says, on the other side of your fear is your freedom. When you work through that fear, you are released from it, right? So wouldn't you rather be released than have this big thing holding you back? Let's work on that snake thing, Heather.
I forgot about the snake. Yeah, no.
No.
There's no point in that.
Okay.
I don't see the point.
She has decided not to pursue that any further.
I don't need to.
Okay. On page 176, Jen jumps into chapter 21, which is called Millions of Mirrors. She says, one of the most staggering things about other people is that they provide us with valuable information about who they are as soon as we meet them. If we pay attention, we can pick up on the major clues they're sending us through their body language, their appearance, their lifestyle, their actions, their interests, their words, how they treat their dogs, the waitress themselves, etc. Some people let it all hang out for everyone to see right away. Others let it seep out in little spurts. She says the people you surround yourself with are excellent mirrors for who you are and how much or how little you love yourself.
Wow.
Ooh. Yeah.
Wow. So, we help a lot of women, both of us, and we talk about why women tend to settle for men that aren't good for them. And we were saying it has to do with what they feel they're worthy of. So if they will be with someone who matches their worth. So if it's someone that treats them horribly, that's what they believe they're worth. And if you find a woman who's in a great marriage and her husband treats her well, it's because that's what she thinks she's worth. It's a mirror. It's just a reflection of how you feel about yourself. And when you think about it that way, it's pretty heavy. Because you think, whoa, is that really how I think, or how little I think of myself? I need to raise my standards and improve that somehow.
Yeah, Heather.
For sure.
Get it. Okay. Where are we moving? 178. Okay. Here we go. Ready? This was a, eye-opening statement. The things that bother us about other people bother us because they remind us of something that we don't like about ourselves.
This literally hit me like a ton of bricks. Of course, it makes sense, especially when you have children. Because the things that annoy you about your kids are your personality traits reflected back to you. And let me tell you something, it is sometimes very hard to see. When your kid does something that drives you up a wall and you're like, oh, wait a minute, they learned that from me. Or that is a reflection of me. Oh my gosh, they're like little mirrors, and it's hard because you realize you have to make some changes because they're absorbing everything you teach them. I have to make changes. I have to be a better version of myself because I don't want to resent my kids because of who I am. That's messed up if you think about it. That goes pretty deep, but that also goes for relationships or people just in general. If something is getting on your nerves, it is because it is something you don't like about yourself. What? Yeah,
I see that all the time.
That was hard for me.
And for me, it's an impatient thing. Like when I see people being impatient, it really gets on my nerves. That's because I'm impatient. I'm the most impatient person ever, except when it comes to photography. That's what my husband always says. You are so impatient in life, but when it comes to photography, you will sit there with that crying kid and try to talk to them, and you're totally normal. Like, it doesn't faze you. But in real life,
everything else,
you are unbearable when it's, and I'm like, thanks a lot, I guess. So yeah, I see it because those impatient people really kind of irk me a little bit.
Drive you crazy.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move to part 5 of the book. And it's called How to Kick Some Booty.
Yeah.
But she didn't use that word.
Yeah, good.
Okay. On page 195. Okay, are you ready for this? The only failure is quitting. Everything else is just gathering information. Heard this in another book. I think it's called Now or Never. And it was like, failure is just information. It's nothing more, nothing less. Just information. And Jen says here, there's no big mystery to this stuff. If you want something badly enough and decide that you will get it, you will. Mm-hmm. You've done it before. You've lost the weight, gotten the job, bought the house, quit the nasty habit, gotten in shape, asked someone out, splurged on the front row tickets, grown out your bangs. You just need to remember that you can do it with anything in your life, even the things that you presently think are out of reach. Yeah.
No such thing as failure, only feedback. Feedback that says, hey, you might want to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
Or you might want to try this. And then she goes on to talk about, this is on page 197, is about making a decision. And she says, deciding is freedom and indecision is torture. So I work with a lot of women who really struggle with this. Mara, I am telling you, it is one of the biggest issues I see. People cannot make a decision because they are so unsure of themselves. They don't know what they want and they have fear. You know, all of these things that we talk about on the podcast. Back to the book, she says, indecision is one of the most popular tricks for staying stuck within the boundaries of what is safe and familiar, which is why a common trait of successful people is that they make decisions quickly and change them slowly. And by quickly, I don't mean that you must know exactly what to do the moment a decision presents itself, but rather that you immediately face the darn thing and start working through your decision-making process, whatever that may look like for you. Sleep on it, make a list of pros and cons, etc. I can't stand wafflers. I can't. I make decisions. I mean, I am like boom, boom, boom with decisions because my belief system tells me that there is no such thing as a good or bad decision, only a different choice. So I make one choice. Let's say it's less than ideal. It's not the best choice. I will correct my course because I will get feedback, not failure. I will get feedback that tells me, hey, this is not the right course. Okay, so I make a change and I go a different direction. And I look at it in a kind of lighthearted manner. Certainly, I've made poor choices, but I correct them quickly. Why? Because I make decisions quickly. I struggle with this with people. I'm like, just make a decision.
Because I make decisions quickly too. Like I think a lot of people feel like they need feedback from too many people before they make a decision. We know people like this that
we do.
They will ask 30 people the same question and whoever, like what majority rules, because they don't want to own that decision. So then it puts the onus on someone else, right? So they say like, oh, well, everyone else told me to do this, so it wasn't my fault, because they don't want to take ownership of what they're doing. So what? You make a choice and it doesn't work out, great, go the other direction. You can always go back and make the other choice. I mean, it doesn't matter. And I think, I don't know if I read this in a book or you told me this about like squirrels that like will dart out into the road and they can't decide, oh, should I go to the other side? Gotta go back. And then splat, they get killed by the car because their indecision kept them going back and forth and then they're dead. So
yes, I call that squirrel theology. And indecision gets them killed.
Yes.
My daughter struggles with this, and it makes me batty. And so in the book, she says, erase the phrase, I don't know, from your vocabulary and replace it with, I'll know what to do soon enough. Decide to become the person who makes quick, smart decisions, and you will. Just make a decision. Stick to it, but don't hang on to it pridefully. If it's not working out, make a different decision. There are actually very few irreversible decisions. Very, very few. Most decisions are reversible. Like you just said, you could go back and change it. You could make a different choice. So what is the big deal? Oh, you don't want to look bad. Oh, you don't want to make the wrong decision because you don't want to look bad.
Because you care what other people think. Oh. Well, we have you figured out, ladies. We have you figured out.
Try again. That's not going to work. Okay, hey, chapter 24, she's talking about money, your new best friend. But what do you want to say about this?
Okay, so Jen also wrote a book called You Are a Bad Butt at Making Money. And I think that this chapter really gets further evaluated in that book. So really pick up, I think if you want to read about money, pick up that book, because I don't know, I don't really want to touch on anything there. We'll just let you guys read the money book and you can go from there.
I think that's a good approach. Let's move to chapter 25, which is remember to surrender. So she says on page 227, if you're broke as a joke, it's not about working until you're half dead to make ends meet and whining about your pathetic situation. It's about showing up every day with an excellent attitude, doing your best, leaning back, celebrating what is, and steadily working with the grateful expectation and belief that the universe is sending you a new, more lucrative opportunity. Doubt is resistance. Faith is surrender. Worry is resistance. Joy is surrender. Control is resistance. Allowing is surrender. Ridicule is resistance. Believing is surrender. Okay, now I also want to say here, she talks a lot about the universe throughout this book. I have a huge problem with this.
Yeah, we feel the same way about this.
What she means to say is God.
But she doesn't want to say it or doesn't believe in God or something. Anytime a book says universe, I say God when I read it, because that's what it means to me.
That's what we believe. She actually does state early on in the book that she is a Christian.
Is she?
But I think she's trying to play to all people.
Everybody.
Yeah. So she says things like the universe or Mother, what does she say? Mother Earth or Mother or something. I don't know. know.
So what's so bad about saying God?
Just
People
say
that
God.
may not believe in God, I'm sorry, but like they would understand it anyway. So I think the majority believes in God more than doesn't believe. But at the end of the day, right, what she's saying here is you have a choice.
Yes.
Right? And you have to decide to choose the joy, right? The surrender, the faith.
Yes.
All of that stuff. And you get to make that choice.
It's all up to you. So make the right one.
Jinx, buy me a Coke.
We even said jinx at the same time. Okay, moving on to page 236. This is chapter 26. It's called Doing versus Spewing. And so on page 236, she says, successful people have good habits. Unsuccessful people have losery habits. Because our habits are all the things that we do automatically without thinking, they help to define who we are. If you're in the habit of getting up and working out every morning, which I am, you're in shape. If you're in the habit of never doing what you say you're going to do, you're unreliable. If you're in the habit of getting massages 3 times a week, you're really psyched. She's funny. She has a way of delivering a hard concept or something that's deep and then saying something funny. But then she goes on to say, the whole point of everything you've learned in this book is to use it to improve your life, not to take a break, go off and read, and then head back out to live your life again and leave everything you've learned back there on the couch where you were reading. You want to carry all the stress relieving, life appreciating, joy delivering, mood lifting, source connecting, God connecting, butt kicking benefits with you all day long. And the best way to do this is through your breath. So what she's talking about here is meditation again. Is to associate all of those things with your breath. And then when you're feeling stressed out or anxious or not focused, take a breath, think about your breath. You're never worried where your next breath is going to come from, are you? No, of course not, because you know it's just going to be there. So if you can tap into that and think of these things, then you can be connected with the, what she calls the source.
Hi
source,
God,
the
how
energy,
are you?
right? Isn't that great? But I love it. Basically, as any book would say, listen, if you read this or listened to this and you do nothing with it, you're a loser. You have to
That is not very nice to our listeners.
It's not
How
compassionate.
dare you?
I'm not compassionate. You have to do something. But how frustrating is it when someone is giving you the tools, you know, an author or a speaker, and you take it all in and you're super psyched up about it and then you do nothing?
Or us. This has happened to us with our
Yeah,
mentoring
it has.
clients.
Yes, it has.
We've given them the strategies, told them, like, here's what I think you should do. At least it's going to get you to a place that's going to give you information, and they just don't do it. So how can I continue to help if they aren't going to listen to what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So when people are giving you advice, legitimate people like Heather and I, or people that write books or do speaking engagements, like, we know what we're talking about. So we're going to give you the advice that we think is going to help you. It's up to you to put it into action. You have a choice. Again, make the right choice, okay, people?
That wraps up?
That wraps up this book. Okay, so You Are a Bad Butt by Jen.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Bad Butt. What do you think about this book?
I absolutely loved this book. I loved this book way more than I could have even thought. My friend Nicole recommended it to me initially, maybe a year or two ago. I can't remember. And I was like, okay, why does she have to use that for the title? That kind of gets on my nerves. Like, I sometimes feel authors use catchy things to, I get it. I get why they do it. I respect that. I'm not an author. But I looked past that, and read it and absolutely loved it. I bought the money book as well. Devoured it. Love, but these are, okay, listen to the podcast for sure.
Right.
But man, if you want to make some changes, read the book.
This is a good book. So your strategy for this week is no more busy talk. Okay, we're going to stop this. Oh, how are you doing? Oh, I'm so busy, because you are speaking busy into existence, and busy isn't actually getting you anywhere. Being busy isn't helping you focus on long-term goals or growth or things like that, because sounds like you're focused in the weeds of getting things done. So eliminate all of your busy talk.
We don't want to hear it. I mean, I think it's just what people say.
Yeah.
So it's what people say back. Why don't you shock someone and say something? This is what I say. I say, oh, I have all the time in the world. I own time. I get done everything I need to get done, because the truth is you do, and you choose it.
That's right. All right, Heather, as we wrap up today's episode, tell everybody, what is your favorite word? I'm just going to start asking you
I know,
random
so
questions.
random. Actually, I do have a favorite word.
Do you have a favorite
I
word?
do. It's grace. And
Oh,
grace is the
okay.
doctrine of treating people better than they deserve. It's obviously a biblical doctrine, but also including yourself. So to treat yourself better than you deserve. Grace is, yeah, that's nice.
That's so
my word.
sweet.
Okay.
All right, but how can everyone support the podcast? I'm just going to throw some
It's
zingers at you to
hilarious.
keep you...
On my toes?
Yeah, because that's what I do here.
You do. You do. You're a lot of fun that way.
How can everyone support the podcast?
Make sure you subscribe, share with all of your friends, share on the social media platforms, talk about the podcast, what you've learned, share with us. We'd love to hear your comments and feedback. We would welcome it, love it, even if it's less than positive. We like the positive ones, but if you have some suggestions, we'll hear them. But if they're stupid, we're not going to listen. But
You are so rude.
I'm on fire today.
You are on fire today. So, well, Happy New Year. The next episode will be our New Year's episode. We'll be starting a new book, and I can't wait.
Yeah, it would be
for
great.
all that next year brings to us, Heather. So thanks everyone for listening to the Flourish Academy podcast. We'll catch you next time.